Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast. It's cold in the studio, and we got a guest that's real used to the cold weather. I went through social, and I kept seeing this guy's posts, following him, and the guy's just epically killing everything. Moose, wolf, giant whitetails.
I would say not just like average animals. I mean, I'm talking top tier.
Yeah, absolute giants in the Yukon and Alberta. I mean, just blown away by what this guy does. I mean, he's a professional guide up there. This is kind of like our late season, so I thought it was cool to have a guy from the Yukon who's like used to the snow all the time, what the deer do, and see if that kind of coincides with what we have going down here, how the deer react to cold weather there compared to here. It's got to be like a normal day for them up there.
Yeah.
But excited to dive into this podcast. We're going to get into the people that make this possible. We're going to start off with the VIP veteran broadhead. We are going to be at the ATA show at the VIP booth. Come by and check us out. Check out the new 4-blade. I'm going to be there January 9th, 10th, and 11th. We'll be there with Cindy and a couple other people, right?
Yeah, I'm sure Jason's going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Dan's going to be there, it sounds
I'm excited.
like.
Jason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real fun time. We always have a blast with the VIP family. Come by and check out the new Combat Veteran 4-blade at ATA show. You got a VIP veteran broadhead shout-out.
This week's VIP veteran broadhead shout-out is Bruce White. He was in the Coast Guard for 6 years. He did various missions. And, Bruce, we appreciate you signing up and doing something that we didn't have the courage to do.
Appreciate you for all your service from all the Whitetail Legacy crew. That's us and the 2 interns in the back and the VIP family. Homie's got a kind of a special announcement. We have partnered with Exodus trail cameras. We've been using their trail cameras for 2 years now. Really enjoying that product, and we've made a deal to run some ads to let you guys know what Exodus has going on, keep up with their sales, keep up with any special events that they got going. So homie's going to break down one right now.
Yeah, so just like Cody said, the good news there, also have good news from Exodus to relay to you guys. They have joined in the holiday giving season by creating a limited edition laser engraved 2% for conservation Lift 2. On top of them of donating 1% of revenue and 1% of their annual to nonprofits, they'll be increasing their donations for this limited edition camera and will donate 10% gross of the gross sale. Favorite part of this campaign is that they'll have a drop down on the camera listing over on their website, ExodusOutdoorGear.com, and you'll be able to select what nonprofit they'll donate in honor of your camera, not just, not they pick it for you, you get to pick it yourself. Some of the available nonprofits include the TRCP, the QDMA, the NWTF, and the Pope and Young Club, so that's very cool.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Yeah.
Just simply head to their website December 13th at 9 a.m. Eastern and find the limited edition camera under the camera tab. Select a nonprofit that you would like to donate to, and you will receive your Exodus Lift 2 backed by their 5-year no BS warranty. Extremely limited quantity, so you got to be there right at 9 a.m. and get this camera on their website.
I think it's cool. Right at the Christmas season, so do a little giving. Anybody that's been wanting to Lift 2, this is a perfect time to get one, and then you can talk your wife into getting you a Christmas present early, and then say, "Hey, honey, it's for donation too, so we're giving also." You
right?
know what I mean,
one other little secret here that I was holding on to. I did get word that they'll be giving one away. The details for that can be found on their podcast, Trail Camera Radio, under the episode they did with Jared Frazier with 2% for conservation.
Oh, nice. So they're going to be giving another Lift 2 away?
Yes.
Lift 2 is an absolute solid camera, so
very solid.
I'm going to be trying to get into that. All right, let's get into Ingram's outdoor obsession. Ingram said that the shotgun season was slow for him, and that coincides with everything that we have heard.
Yep.
So he did get a few bucks in. Still, literally everybody that I know that killed a deer took it there. Like,
yeah.
I mean, honestly,
right?
Like everybody's seeing what we got doing. They're still looking at the prices. They're like, man, this guy's got it going on full time. So that just goes to show you there's a lot of people that transitioned over, and a lot of people got it done in October this year. So
yeah.
Super cool. Let's get into ECW calls. Big news out of ECW. The archery range has been approved by the city.
Yes.
So potentially Roseville, Illinois will have a 3D archery range coming soon in the near future. So shout out to ECW for expanding their empire in Roseville and continuing to make calls. Scentlock, all your hunting camo needs, all your Oz product needs, check them out, scentlock.com, Oz on Instagram. Great product. We love using them. Still rocking them. Cold out there. Triple suiting it up. All right, let's get in the show. All right, we got Dom Jackson on the line from way up in Alberta. What's the weather like up there?
Cold. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, it's like 14 here with 20-mile-an-hour winds, and it's cold as hell. I'm not ready. I've been talking all year. I'm like, I'm not ready for the cold. It's late December, and I'm still not ready. So I couldn't imagine up there. So.
Yeah, no, actually saying that it's not that bad considering what it should be this time of year, but whatever. It's still cold. You know, after deer season, you just want to leave this place.
I can imagine. I would go there during deer season. We were doing a little pre-talk, and the bucks that you're putting down and the outfitters up there putting down, just unbelievable. That double drop tine chocolate antlered buck is like what dreams are made of for anybody. So unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, a lot of time went into that deer.
I couldn't imagine when
5 years.
You got the trail cam pictures. You like shit a brick. You're like, okay, was that real? Did I really just see that? I got to go back. But
yeah, when he was a 4-year-old buck, I was shitting bricks.
Oh yeah, I could guarantee you that. So
yeah, I think he only had 3-inch drops at that time. So
only
3-inch doubles, no big deal.
Yeah, plural.
Yeah. But all right, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on. We wanted to have you on. Like you said, you're killing giant bucks. We know literally nothing about Alberta, but we want to kind of relate it to late season. This is like our late season here, snow, really cold temps. So we thought, what is a better guy to talk to than someone that's like that is their normal hunting, a lot of snow on the ground, cold temps. You got to have some knowledge of what whitetail deer do, and when it's like that. Me and homie, we were talking. We've never had a lot of success late season, so I'm excited to pick your brain, talk whitetails, and dive into this. So give the listeners like a brief introduction of who you are, where you're exactly from, and what you do for a living.
My name is Dominic Jackson. I'm from northeastern Alberta, and I've been outfitting here for now 6 years. Been in the guiding industry for going on my 11th season now. And yeah, that basically sums it up. I've lived in my outfitting area my entire life, so it kind of worked out that I was able to take over the business in the area that's essentially my backyard, so that worked out perfect. Something I've always strived for.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
I was like, just having that familiarity with the ground is key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. The ground, landowners especially, that's a big one. And then, yeah, just being able to grow up in the area, knowing the road access and just the logistics of the area is really key. So, yeah, I actually have a partner, Rob Brown with Timber King, and he came into the area, and that's when we partnered up, is when he came into the area. And he said it had to be done that we partnered up, and it's been awesome. And I'll never look back. So,
well, you guys got something figured out for sure. First question I want to kind of throw at you, breaking down these tactics, is your social feed, Alberta Darkhorn, is full of just absolute mega giant bucks on trail cam. A lot of what's snow on the ground. How are you deploying these trail cams, and what is some of the strategies that you've learned to make them last longer in these cold temps? Because we struggle with that. Even with running lithium batteries, it doesn't seem like the cold they struggle in the cold. So is there any tips or tactics that you could just talk about running trail cameras?
I've played around with a lot of trail cameras, and I'm going to give someone a shout out here. Exodus cameras. They're fairly new. I think they're newer 5 years ago, if that. I've used so many different cameras in our temperatures, and there's good camera companies out there, and I'm sure they're all good. but it has to be able to work in this climate up here. And Exodus cameras are hands down the best camera I've ever used. I'll give you one example. They sent me a free one to trial, given my situation and where I'm at, and I stuck it out October. I think it was October 17th, 15th. Anyways, mid-October, and I left it out there till March. And it was a hard winter, like very cold winter. It took 4,700 pictures, and it still had 30% battery left.
Nice.
After 4,700. I went there in the spring and got it, and it's still going.
Wow.
So Exodus cameras and Bushnell cameras, actually. I use both of those, and they're hands down the best cameras for my personal preference. So.
Yeah, it's funny. We just partnered with Exodus recently for the show. We've been having some huge success running their cams, and that's pretty much like the only solid ones that we have. Like, you can hang it, and like you go to the other ones, you're like, this might be working, it might not be working. But Exodus, you're always like, as long as no one messed with the SD card and reset that security pin, it is solid.
I was just writing a blog here a couple weeks ago, and was just going through pictures for it, trying to find some content finding some deer that we had on cam, and literally all the big deer we have are on the Exodus cams because we put them in the money spots because we know it's going to be solid.
Yeah.
We can get all the accurate intel that comes on the data strip, and it's all going to be right there. We know it's going to be right, and it's just going to be out there doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you can depend on it. So that's funny that you said that. I mean, I know up there in the cold, we've had some pretty good luck with brownings. Too, but I mean, the cold weather is hard on electronics. I mean, you have your phone outside for 5 minutes trying to do a text message. You lost 30% battery. So
yeah, no kidding. That's when you just use them hand warmers and basically tape them to the backside of your phone.
Yeah, I can imagine I'd have to have a backpack full of hand warmers if I was up there. Toe warmers out the ass, man. But
have you had more success with lithium batteries, or are you trying to run regular batteries, or what are you doing with that?
Honestly, I lithium batteries, I haven't played around with them lots. I know they work for the few times I've used them, but I've been running Energizer industrial batteries. They're meant for working out in whatever kind of temperatures, various temperatures, I guess. And the price point is right for what we're doing, right? I tend to check my cameras even after the season once a month still, so I'm still on top of it. But they do last. Like I could probably leave an Exodus camera out there with the Energizer Industrials for a couple months and not be worried about it dying, unless it was drastically cold. Then I'd probably go hit it up in a couple weeks. But they do last. Like it's not a big worry. So lithium, they're so expensive, and the number of cameras we're running, it would break the bank for me. So
yeah, I can imagine the number of cameras that you're running. I mean, I bet you the ground up there is so vast. That might be something we can kind of transition into. So when you're placing these cameras, it's cold weather, a lot of snow on the ground. Where are you placing these cameras to get the pictures of the bucks that you are getting?
Again, that all depends on the time of year. So August, I tend to lay down on mineral sites. Alberta, it's illegal to hunt over bait. But in the early season, you could put down some attractants, right, just to get pictures. So I use a lot of mineral, and I find that I'm helping out the deer those early seasons when they need that mineral and nutrients to pump out the horn. So I invest a lot into salt and trace minerals, and then I place them in high traffic areas where I have the history of a lot of deer moving through. And they'll find it. They'll hit it wherever, even if I'm 1,000 yards off from the main activity. I'll still get them over to that area, and then we transition into scrape lines and rub lines in October. And then after that, when the snow hits the ground, we get to really see where the deer are moving. I try to target heavy traffic trails. Even if the does are moving across them, wherever there's does, there's going to be bucks following. They're going to abandon their scrapes eventually, and they're just going to be chasing does. So they will usually have a trail that they'll use consistently year after year, I found. Obviously, if there's rubs down them and scrapes down them, then it's a trail that they'll use for their entire life, right?
Yeah.
So, that
Okay.
being
So
said, the double drop tine is a prime example. He was killed on the same trail that he used for the past 5 years that we've known about him.
wow, incredible. So that's really cool. That's something me and homie talked about. You know, when you get that snow, you can go out there and scout for that fresh sign, and you can see. That's why I keep telling you about the public police. I'm like, when it snows, well, you'll know exactly what the deer are doing because there's just such a heavy trail, and that'd be perfect. You know, store some cams up, wait for the snow, go scout, boom, place them. Now you know that you're on the main trails, whether you said it's a buck trail or a doe trail. You still know you're on one of those main traffic trails to catch that movement on cam. So that's a good tip.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people like don't know this too. Like that, you know, a deer, one of its strongest glands that's not traceable to the human nose is through their hooves, right? So that's why deer use the same trail consistently. They have a scent that they release from the glands in their hooves, and that's why that a buck will tend to walk with his nose down as he's scenting that doe, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing a lot of people don't know. You know, a deer has 9 different glands. I can't name them off the top of my head, but one of the strongest smelling one to a deer is the glands from their hooves. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
so if you find a packed down trail, then yeah, they're going to consistently use it. And if you have a target buck in the area, that's where you need to be within shooting distance.
yeah, he knows all the does are using it consistently and not getting shot, not getting bumped. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
So when you're up there, you got the heavy snow, the cold temps. You're running these trail cameras. Is there any ag where you're at all, or is it all just heavy, dense timber?
No, we are pretty much on the fringe country. Fringe country meaning to us, agriculture meets the heavy bush. And I'm talking really heavy bush. Like you could go hundreds of miles, and then you'll hit the Northwest Territories, and there won't be a community in between, right?
That's epic stuff.
Yeah. Saying that, I don't operate in that heavy bush. Like I operate right on the edge of it, and I get to hunt a little bit of it, but that's where we need to be. The hardest time for these deer is now until March, right? So they need, like those bush deer, yes, a lot of people kill a lot of big deer in the big bush, but you get a hard winter, they have nothing to rely on, whereas our deer, they could hammer the grain bins in a farmer's yard for all they care, right?
Yeah.
Or wherever, like something that the farmers didn't harvest, so they
Same
have
thing
something
for
to
us
fall
around
back
here,
on.
yeah.
But there's, these winters, they can be hard on these deer, but we've been fortunate. This will be the 5th season. If we get another mild winter, we'll have another solid year or whatever going in. It was a bad season. 2000, I think it was 2008, was the hardest winter we ever had in Alberta, and it took a toll on our deer hard. Like they're saying, like anywhere from 40 to 50% of our deer were gone. So
wow,
from winter kill.
Wow, that's
yeah, and I believe it. Like I seen it firsthand. So like it's tough.
So
but
you're hunting kind of the same area we are. Not the same area, but kind of the same structural area. Like we're hunting on the fringe of timber and ag. So how far are you seeing that these bucks are bedding late season from the food source?
Late season, like after our rut, talking right now, December, well, even mid-December, because some of our deer are still rutting. Like I was seeing bucks chasing does the other day, just because I think the doe number is higher than normal. So saying that late season, I can't see them being farther than 2 miles out from their main food source. Even during the rut, the one thing, again, this is going from personal experience on these whitetail and what I'm finding. I used to think it was a 3-mile radius, but I honestly think that's too far for our deer. That double drop tine, and then the big one we killed 3 years ago, the 217, those deer taught me a lot about how they move and how these big bucks move, and it was within a 2-mile radius. from the original picture, the 217, the triple drop down. I don't know if you've seen that one. But I got a picture of him in August, and we killed him just under 2 miles away. And then the doubles drop time, like I said, 5 years went into him. I never got one picture of him outside 160 acres. All the pictures were within that one. Whether I was missing him somewhere or not, but I put a lot of scouting into that deer, and he was always seen, or a picture was taken of him in the 160-acre section, and he was killed on that 160-acre section. So who's to say that why did he have to leave? If he had all his food source there and plenty of does, what was the point of him traveling and cruising, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we've seen that with some giants. They just seem to find a little piece that they feel secure in and maybe bounce around a little bit off of it, but don't ever leave that piece. And it's like if you're hunting the edge of it, you might only get like 3-4 trail cam pictures of him, and you're like, man, this deer is just gone. But then you realize he's there the whole time. He's just right on the neighbors. Like a buck this year, we got a picture of in October. We got one set of trail cam pictures of him, thought he was gone, and then the neighbor shot him.
300 yards south
300 yards south of us, you know what I mean? So we're like, wow, this deer we thought was gone, and he was just right there. So,
yeah.
But we have
even with the double drop time too. Like the day he was shot on the consistent trail that he's always been seen on. So of course I have a camera on there. I didn't get a picture of him. So with these cameras, I tell all my clients too when they're booking and they're inquiring about pictures, and they're like, "Oh, you got a picture of that deer in velvet? Like, is he still alive?" And it's like, I don't know. He probably is, but you can't live on these pictures. You can't just have tunnel vision when it comes to trail cameras. You got to be able to hunt still. So saying that, like this was a prime example. 5 years went into this deer, and I really look back on all the content I have of them. I maybe have 6 pictures of them. it's like that's all I have in the 5 years, and then of course a few sightings. He was passed on in 2017, which worked out in our favor. But other than that, 2018 he was passed on last year. Other than that, that's all I have. So.
Yeah, that's incredible. We got kind of the same story where not a lot of pictures, and then we end up killing him, and it's like a freak. You're like, man, this shouldn't happen, But like you said, that deer was there. It's hard to catch him on, that one trail camera. So that being said, this time of year, if you're seeing there's a lot of activity on a food source or something, you put a camera on there and you don't get a picture of a buck right off the bat, you might not want to completely erase that food source from your mind because there might be something used in it on the back door or accessing it from a different direction that you don't even know, and that's still there and still a killable deer.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I want to break down the tactics for late season, but I really want to hear about this double drop time buck. So what time of the year did you end up killing that deer?
It was the 16th of November. I don't remember that date for the day we killed him because that was the day my first child was born, too.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you guys know, but yeah, I just had my first kid, and he was born on the same day we killed that deer.
Wow.
Epic.
That's epic day.
Pretty amazing day.
Yeah. We got kids, and I got one October 1st. I'm like, I'll never forget that. Opening day bow season. Got it. So, easy to remember.
That's
but
what I said, that kid's in it for the long run now. He was born on the day the big buck was killed.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of cool the hunter's actually getting us a replica made to give to Jack, my son.
Oh, that's epic. That's super awesome, man.
Yeah.
Can't beat that. So.
No.
So you killed him mid. Is that pretty much your guys' rut?
Yeah, that's what I would call the rut. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty much our rut down here. It's pretty much the same time coincided with ours. It's always funny to understand, like, the guys down, like, Georgia and stuff. They're like, oh, the rut's about ready to kick in. And I'm like, man, the rut's been gone. It's over. But it's cool that, we're kind of similar in that instinct. But so you had 5 years history with him. He was passed in 2018. In 2000, this year he was killed on the same trail that you had pictures of him for 5 years or encounters.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that's epic, man. That deer is super incredible. I mean, are all the bucks up there that dark horn, like chocolateness to them?
It's a number of things, whether it's just the way they pump out their horn and their antler, I guess I should say, or whatever. But just, I guess, the trees they rub on. We got the spruce, the tamarack, and the black poplar and all that. So it's a number of things. And they rut hard, I guess. I don't know what it is, why they got the dark horn, but that's what we're known for, and that's why I chose the name.
Yeah, perfect name, man. Real perfect name for your Instagram with all those absolute giant. I mean, you guys are killing wolves and moose and sheep. I'm like, man, these guys got it going on. Like, literally epic stuff for us is like your everyday deal. Like, I just wouldn't go. I'm just going to go kill moose, There's no big deal. But that's like an epic 10-year feat to accomplish for us. But,
yeah, that was another thing. Our moose season was our November moose season, which pairs up with our whitetail season, was probably one of the best ones we ever have. So this past season was the best moose season we'll ever have for a late season moose. Like it's been hard for us, and the clients they just weren't getting it done. They didn't know what to expect on a late season moose hunt. Like they're not rutting. You got to take whatever opportunity you're given for a shot opportunity, right? So 2 years ago. It was not this season, but last season, I had a lady from Belgium. She was 71 years old and, elderly too. And just, there was a language barrier there, and we had a hell of a time trying to kill her a moose.
Oh, I could only imagine.
She probably had the best luck out of anyone I'll ever guide for a moose. The first morning, I take her out, and I have a translator / booking agent. He was this guy from France, really great guy, and he booked her on this hunt. And I told him, well, first of all, he booked her on a rut hunt in the early season, and I was like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, we could get a moose in nice and close, call it in. And she goes, and then he tells me her age, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, no, I don't know if this could be done. Like, can she hike? And he gets back to me. He says, well, she could maybe do a mile. I'm like, no, sorry, can't do it. I said, I was like, we're going to have to roll her over to our November season. And he goes, okay, that's fine. And he says, how does that go? I said, basically hunting out of a stand, driving around in a truck, glassing fields, first light and last light, or whatever, midday, or doing drives, essentially, where we just push them out of the bush. But that's tough too, because even a seasoned hunter can't even make that quick shot. Like, you got a full moose running out of the bush on a little cut line that's only 15 feet wide. Like, you got 1 second to shoot.
Yeah. And we're not talking like when I think a lot of people think moose, they're thinking like, decent moose. We're talking like like insanely huge moose, man. When it's in that boat, I'm like, that boat is sinking. There ain't no way that boat is getting out of there.
Yeah, I pushed the limits on the safety precautions on them boats too.
I would say for sure. I'm like, I don't even know how they got it in that boat, for one. I don't know how they're getting it out.
Yeah, a lot of swearing and grunting and just taking breaks. But yeah, no, back to Joelle, the woman that booked the moose hunt. So she came and I took her out because I was like, whatever, I'll take her out. This will be cool. If we get her a moose, it'll be awesome. Just the furthest hunter we've ever booked from. Like, she was from Belgium, and an elderly lady. It'll be cool. And I take her out the first morning. I'm driving her to the stand, and Frank, the translator's in the back seat. And I tell him, I said, we'll go check this field over here, and it's usually pretty good. Like, there's usually moose in there. That if there's one, tell Joelle just to get out, get on the shooting sticks, and hopefully blow it over. And he goes, okay. So he translates, and sure as shit, we pull into the field, and here's one of the biggest bulls I've ever seen in the area, growing up there, living there my entire life. And I'm like, oh my fucking god. Like, so I tell Joelle, I'm like, get out, and shoot that moose. And she jumps out,
she gets in the gun, and I'm like, holy shit, like, this is going to happen. And nothing. And I look at Frank, and I'm like, what is she doing? And he says something to her, and she goes, too far. And I'm like, no. And I arranged it. I'm like, it's 180 yards. You got to shoot. And I tell Frank, I'm like, Frank, it's 180 yards. It's a huge animal. I said, she's got 8 feet of playroom there. Like, tell her to shoot. And she goes, no, too far. Oh, just a second.
I need 8-foot buffers. That's what I need.
That's what I need too. If I had 8 foot either way, I'd be solid, real solid.
Yeah. So, anyways, she whatever doesn't shoot. I watched this moose run out of our lives, and I'm like, holy shit, that sucks. And yeah. So, anyways, I put her in the stand, and I get them all set up, and I tell Frank, text me during the day if you could text. What's going on? And he goes, okay. And then next thing you know, I get a text around midday. He goes, we missed a moose. I'm like, what the hell? So I go in there, and I'm like, I got to check if you actually shot it. So I go check for blood, nothing. And he goes, yeah, we seen a moose, and she shot, and we missed. And I'm like, holy hell. Like, it was close too. It was probably 80 yards, if that. So then I picked them up at the end of the day, and then we go for a drive. Next thing you know, sure shit, one of the fields down the road, there's another bull moose, another shooter moose. She gets in the sticks, doesn't shoot. She can't find it in the scope. So, that was my first day with Joel, and I'm like,
man, this is 3 shooters in the same day. I could probably get it done on that. I mean, if I had 3 shots, 8 by 8, I'm pretty solid.
Yeah, no, she had 3 moose in front of her. She missed 1. She didn't shoot at 2. Like, it was a bad day.
For sure.
Oh.
Anyways, the hunt went on. She was on a moose whitetail combo. She ended up shooting on a whitetail, missed that too, and. Anyways, we brought her back because we were like, man, we just really want to get this woman a moose. So we brought her back, and she ended up killing one in the rut in the early season. My partner, he operates rut hunts in northwestern Alberta, and he booked her, and he's like, we'll get her a moose. So that she ended up getting a moose. It was a good one. It wasn't that big, but she was happy with it, and that's all that matters to us.
Nice. So. Well, props to you guys for putting in the work to make sure everybody's satisfied, whatever it takes to get it done. But I know on that 3rd moose, I'd have been like, all right, we got to have a serious translation talk here because this ain't working out. But.
Yeah, no, I sat them down after the first day, and I explained to them, like, these are giant animals. I'm like, you have a lot of room for error there.
The lungs are the size of a human.
Yeah, I just told her, I'm like, fire away. We'll figure it out after. so yeah.
All right. Well, I know you guys are doing a lot of stand hunting. That's most of what you guys attempt to do up there. So, is there any tips that you could do or tell a guy like me who's hunting these cold weathers to make you sit in the stand longer?
I guess, there's a lot of products on the market that we've played around with over the years, and I've kind of narrowed it down to the few. I have a couple guys that are running the IWAM suits. They don't have any complaints about them. The guys that really praised the one product, the heater body suits, they say they're the deal. Like, that's the ticket. That's the way to sit in these cold conditions. The thing about the heater body suits, and they're saying they're fine, but with our deer, you gotta be quick. Like, you got literally, I always narrow it down to 3 seconds because we're hunting cut lines. We're hunting the big bush, so all we have is cut line. So a buck can cruise across them in 2 seconds, if that, right? So if you have enough time to jump out of a heater bodysuit, shoulder a gun, aim, and shoot, then by all means, go ahead. But saying that, I don't know, like, it's tough. You don't ever want to tell someone buy a heater bodysuit. That's what you need to hunt these deer, and then they end up getting caught in the zipper when they're trying to shoot a deer. So there's a like Ravenware. That's been one of the longest running companies that's been known to produce for our hunts here. I think there's King of the Mountain. There's another one that a lot of my clients wear. Cabela's makes a good lineup product, the Cabela Stand Hunter. That's probably one of the better ones. I've personally worn that, and like they're awesome. And whatever boot blankets you could find, like you're sitting on our stands are metal stands, right? So you do attract a lot of cold from the stand itself. If your feet are right on them, your boots are right on them. Even that rubber gets cold, and then your soles get cold or whatever. So I always say to guys, like, if you could find like those icebreaker boot blankets, or if you could find Ravenware boot blankets, even on or whatever, and buy them.
So we run those Arctic Shield. We run those Arctic Shield boot covers, and those are real. Those are a game changer, to be honest with you. Like,
they make the difference. Like, and that's like a lot of guys look at them and go, "You put your whole boot in there, and how does that even help?" And it does.
Yeah,
it's just like another barrier.
Yeah, another cold, barrier. Right? It's got some air in there to create heat on friction, and I think it just gets
Thermacell actually came out with those heated insoles, and they're awesome too. I've used those. As long as you can change, you buy an extra battery, or however they're selling them nowadays or whatever, you buy an extra battery and you switch them out, because they only last on, if you're cranking them on high heat all day, they'll only go for 5 hours or whatever. So a lot of my guys are sitting on stand for 10 hours a day, so it's a long day.
Yeah, man, that is a long day in the cold weather.
Just got to have something to take that edge off, you know what I mean? Just to make it more tolerable.
I like to go in, get cold, and then take the edge off. Like, once your feet get cold, then you put the wraps on. You're like, oh, it's not warm, but you're like, oh, this is way better than what I had.
Yeah.
So
more of a mind game.
It's a mind game. You're like, your feet are still cold, but you're like, they're like way better than they were 10 minutes ago. So I can make it another couple hours now for sure. That's what we always do. Like, we'd wear our boots in, and then we'd always pack a second pair of socks to put on in the stand. Because when you put that second set of socks on, it takes a while for that cold to eat through.
Well, that and my feet just sweat pretty bad, so I'm trying to have less moisture on my feet when I first get in there, and then I have that extra layer of sock to get in there. If it does get wet, I have a dry sock to put on, and then, like you said, then we have the boot covers to get it up off the stand and stuff.
That's like my main thing. My core stays warm. I found that if you take the toe warmers and rip them off and put them on your first layer, like basically underneath your armpits, like on your t-shirt, and then zip up all your layers, that core you're so warm core-wise, the rest of your body is like, it feels all right. The only thing that gets cold is my toes, man. I got the weakest toes I've ever known to any human being besides Terry Watson. Shout out him. Besides that guy. But anyways, that's our system.
So you tried those Thermacells?
No, I haven't tried the heated insoles. I have not. I think that would be we were talking about if you could find something that would heat your whole foot, like the foot warmer, that would be real nice instead of just a toe warmer. But
well, it's funny you say that. Like, just yesterday, I've been looking at these, like, heated sock brands and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, man, that's probably the way to go.
Yeah, if you could, like, if you could get your whole foot warm, I think, like you said, just that something like your feet get cold, if you could turn it on and just take a little bit of the edge off to get your mental game in, like, okay, this is way better than it was. I can last now. It's no big deal. Even if you think that you're doing something to help, you know what I mean? It's not really helping a lot, but you're like, oh, yeah, I got the heater on now. I'm good. It helps mentally.
And you're like, what am I doing?
Oh, yeah, I know some late season hunts, and I can only imagine, like, all December, like, you're in there for 2 hours. You're like, yep, this is terrible. I have no idea what I'm doing. There's no way a deer's moving in this cold weather. I might as well pack it up now.
We had a couple guys shoot on the first day of their hunt, and, like, good deer, but, not something they were after or a target deer in the area, and I'm like, you got cold. That's all it was.
Oh, yeah. That didn't mean like, oh, that's pretty solid deer out there. Boom.
And I'd be the first to say I got cold.
Oh yeah, they'd be like, oh yeah, I had to get down. But
Yeah.
one thing I want to ask you: do you ever see a temperature? And your deer might be more tolerant for us. Do you see a temperature or like a high wind scenario where deer just do not move up there?
Yeah. So I'm talking in Celsius. You'll have to do the conversion. I'm not sure how to do that, but I always say like anything colder than minus 20 Celsius here, which is like really cold. Like the deer aren't moving. There's nothing that will get those deer up. Like hell, we don't even want to move, right? So like why would a deer move? They're gonna bed down wherever they're at and conserve whatever energy and heat they have. As for wind, I always find that it doesn't really affect, unless it's like terribly like, hurricane wind forces or whatever, but we don't really get those here in Alberta, or our part of Alberta, I should say. We don't get any bad wind storms or anything like that. So to have wind in our area, it's always on the average, whatever the average speeds are. So it doesn't affect our deer hunt. I would say definitely really cold temperatures affect our deer movement.
So I did my Google.
More so.
I did my Google calculator thing here, and -4 degrees Fahrenheit is -20 degrees Celsius. So we could agree with that. We feel like if it hits anything negative, like if it's 5 degrees, we still see deer movement. But if it's anything negative, like when me and you were going to work, it was like real temp -15.
Oh, yeah.
There wasn't even a bird. Like everything was dead at that point. Me and Homie were talking like pretty much all our deer are dead right now. We have no idea how they survived and put on antler growth. You know what I mean? So that would be pretty close to us. We think anything past 0 is just too cold. I mean, you can't last unless you have the best gear. I mean, you're not lasting very long. And then like us, it's bow season only. You have to draw your bow. And like last season, remember I was hunting? You were like, you should probably draw your bow.
Yeah, I was like, your bow might just snap.
It was so cold. Homie's like, you should probably just draw your bow to make sure you could draw it. I'm like, that's probably a good idea because it is so cold out. And, you don't see the movement that you do. I feel like 15 degrees, like a good 10 to 15 degree, that's your high. Like, I feel like that's when you get that really good, solid movement with some snow or snow coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you see a difference in powdery snow and, like, a hard frozen snow for movement, or does that make a difference?
I don't think it really necessarily makes a difference during the rut. It definitely makes a difference in the winter months, like post-rut and after season. I will say this, going back on winter kills for our deer, the hardest thing on our deer is the snow. It's not the cold. They could withstand the cold. They've lived their entire life. This species of animal or whatever, white-tailed deer in Alberta, have been able to withstand our winters for years past. It's the snow that kills them. And those years that we had those major winter kills, we had 3 to 4 feet of snow in the fields, and there was no deer trails anywhere. Which tells you these deer are bedding down and they're just slowly dying, and they can't get to their food source, whatever it may be. Hell, it could just be grass out there, whatever it is, right? So that's what kills our deer is the snow. So the hard, crusty snow, definitely. That's what slows down the deer movement in the later season. As for during the rut, I don't see it slowing down our deer. It definitely funnels them and pinches them into an easier target. I will say that. We get a bunch of snow in November, and I haven't seen that in years. Like, it's been a long time since we got a real good dump of snow for November. But when I used to guide for the previous outfitter, like, that was the normal, guiding in deep snow, like to the point where, our four-wheelers sometimes weren't cutting it and we had to switch to snow machines, which, like, I haven't been able to do in years. But saying that, the deer definitely tend to stick to one trail. And why wouldn't they? Another animal packs down the snow. Why wouldn't they just walk on that same trail?
Yeah, that's a good point. We've noticed that here is if we get a soft powdery snow, I feel like they can still browse in the timber. They can still get to acorns. get to some kind of grass or something. But it feels like when that snow gets frozen and they have to dig through it, even the turkeys, you go to an ag field where there's like standing beans or corn, that's when they're going to absolutely hammer those because they don't have to dig through that frozen snow and they have something still standing. Does Alberta let you guys like plant any food plots or anything like that up there?
No, a lot of guys don't get into it because there's like a fine line between hunting over bait, so there's not a lot of people that do food plots. But saying that, there's plenty of people that will kill a deer standing in a field eating alfalfa.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Like the farmer's also a hunter, and he couldn't get to that particular.
Can't get to this alfalfa. It's too wet.
Yeah.
I feel what you're saying. I can see that happening to us. If a guys couldn't bait around here, they'd be like, the combine, or couldn't plant food plots. They'd be like, the combine just could not get to these beans. I don't know why. Specifically an acre right in this little pocket of timber, but I couldn't get there. There'd be guys like dropping trees on the road, be like, tree here, can't do it.
Yeah, that was supposed to be firewood. I guess I'll get it next year.
Yeah, I'll get it next year.
I was wondering how much fat your deer have on them. Like, is it like a normal amount, or I know you've probably just been up there and we've just been down here, so we can't really evaluate where it is everywhere else. But I just feel like with the temps up there that you guys have and the snow, that how much fat is on these deer?
That's another thing too. Like, it all depends on the time of year you kill them. Like, you'll see like our bucks. It's kind of cool. Like, if you have bucks hanging in the meat shed from the early part of November to the late part of November, it could be like a difference of only 10 days. The buck that was killed 10 days later might not have any fat on them. Like, literally, there won't be any white on him. So they really rut hard here. Like, it's just one of those things. And as for the depth, I wouldn't even have a clue on how much fat they actually have on them or whatever. But they're big deer. Like, and all my clients that come from the States, they when they see one of our Alberta deer, like, just everything about it is big. Their bodies are just huge. And
what's an average?
It all depends. An average?
Yeah, what's
weight?
an average weight for like a mature buck there?
350 pounds.
Yeah, that's like an absolute monster down here. You know what I mean? Like an absolute behemoth.
Oh yeah, no. Like I've personally guided a couple deer that one of them, two of us could not lift on a four-wheeler, and I remember thinking, like, when I walked up to that buck, like, it was so long and so big, like, I remember thinking, holy shit, like, I don't know if we could lift this one. And, like, I got whatever stupid technique I have for loading deer on a four-wheeler, but, like, I remember we could not lift that one at all on the four-wheeler. And I ended up having to load it like I loaded black bears back in the day. I drove my four-wheeler up a tree and put it on the back end, and then rolled the deer up to the back rack, strapped it down, and then pulled the four-wheeler off the tree.
That's an epic tip, man. Whatever it takes.
If you ever get a deer that you can't load, just drive it up a tree so it's standing on end, strap it to the rack, and then
drive the Dodge straight up a tree, get that tailgate angled right down. I'll just roll it up there. We'll be good to go.
If I shoot a deer that big, I'm going to be in the bush before we even have to get it out of the field.
Homer's going to be like 3 miles up in the bush. He'd be like, I just shot one.
Oh,
yeah. I remember my hunter, he was just like all over the place. Like, I drove this thing up the tree, standing on the back rack. I ended up, the quad was standing on end. I was standing on my feet, luckily, and rolled the deer up, and he was getting in there with all, helping wherever he could. We strap it, and I pull it off the tree, and he goes, holy shit, why didn't I video that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, fuck, sorry, man. Like,
I'd have been like, this guy has no idea what he's doing.
At first, I'd be like, all right, this guy has lost it. I'm never getting this deer out. I'm freezing to death right now. At the end, I'd be like, all right, this guy knows what he's doing. I'm just going to be quiet.
Well, he was sitting pretty good. So, like, the funny story about that guy is, I forget where he was from, but it was a while ago. And he was my very first client I ever booked as an outfitter. His name was Mark Schaff. And I remember him and his dad booked with me, and this is when I was small time. I was only running 4 hunters, and they were the first 2 to come into camp. And I the day before they showed up, I was scouting an area, and I found this area with fresh snow, and it was just hammered with deer. Like, there was tracks everywhere. And I was like, holy shit, like, something's going on here. I don't have time to hang cameras, but I'm just going to throw a stand up, right? So I threw the stand up, go back to town that night, grab Mark and his dad, Stuart, bring them back to camp, and we're talking, and I'm telling them where they're going to be sitting tomorrow, all this stuff. Stuart's older, so he can't sit in the stand. He has to sit in the ground blind, which was fine. So we pull out in the morning, and I'm literally parked on the highway. If I go straight, it'll go to the new spot that I set up the day before. And I'm like, damn, like, and Mark goes, what's up? And I said, I set up this spot yesterday, literally yesterday, and it has a lot of sign for given the fresh snow. I said, but I don't have a clue what's there. And he's like, oh, man, sounds promising. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, should I try it out? And I'm like, hell yeah. He's like, okay. So I drove him in there, and he had no cell service. So I was like, okay, well, I'll pick you up at dark. And he's like, yeah, fine by me. I take his dad out and drop his dad off. And I'm driving down the road, whatever, doing my thing. I'm going for like a coffee. It's like 10 o'clock or whatever. So I'm stopping at the gas station. I get this voicemail, and I'm like, what the hell? So I check my voicemail, and it's Mark going, Dom, come pick me up. And I'm like, how in the hell is he calling me? So I rip in there. Like, I have to drive probably 40 minutes to get him. I rip in there, and he's standing out on the cut, and he's got this big ear-to-ear grin, and I'm like, what the hell? And this guy told me prior to the hunt that he wouldn't shoot anything under 160 inches because he's hunted Saskatchewan for years and Alberta many years ago, all this stuff. And I'm like, well, shit, he must have shot a big one. So I come up to him. I'm like, hey, Mark, like, what's up? And he goes, I shot a good one. And I'm like, well, it must be a good one. You told me you weren't going to shoot anything under 160 inches. And he's like, man, come check out this deer. So we walk up to this deer, and this is the one with the big body, right? So everything about it was just big. I remember looking at its body going, holy shit. And then I look at the horns, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, everything was big about it. So when we got that whole ordeal of it loaded up and tipping the quad on its end and everything, we get it out to the truck, and he's like, I got to measure this deer, Dom. I got to measure this deer. And I'm like, whatever, man, you measure it. And this is just a personal thing. I don't measure deer. If the clients want to measure their deer, they could. So he puts a tape to his deer, and it's 172 inches. And I'm like, holy crap, Mark. Like, that's your biggest deer? And he goes, yeah. He says, you know what's the best part? You didn't even ask me the story. And I was like, oh, yeah. Like, so when did you kill it? And, like, I'm loading the quad and everything. And he's like, Dom, you dropped me off. I sat there for 15 minutes, and I shot it. He says, I had to walk 3 miles down the road to get cell service to make a call to you. He says, I only sat there for 15 minutes. And I'm like, what the hell? I said, I didn't know that. He goes, yeah. He says, and get this. He says, 10 minutes of that wasn't even legal light, so I really only hunted for 5 minutes, he said.
Wow.
Holy shit. So, yeah, that was the very first deer I outfitted. It was a 15-minute hunt.
Can't beat that.
Yeah,
That's
right?
good advertisement. Yeah, this
No.
guy only set in the cold 5 minutes, people. He wasn't even cold from the heater.
Oh no, he didn't even have a heater. That was back when I didn't even give a shit about my clients staying warm. I'm like, okay, get out there and kill a big one. I always tell guys
Sucker.
that
I need
story
these pictures.
because- yeah, I always talk about that story in deer camp now because we got, of course, nice big stands that are enclosed, and they got a carpet floor and a heater if the hunter wants one. I said, man, back when I started, I literally bought the only tripods I could find at Cabela's. You couldn't even swivel around in the chair without hitting your knees on the edge. So basically, they call it a 360, but you could probably only swivel 10 degrees. Like that. And it was wide open. And
Whatever
those
it
poor
takes,
guys
man.
That, trusted me right off the get-go. Like, I feel bad for them. But they all killed big deer, and that's what it took was, I was whatever, young and determined at the time, still am, but like I wanted to prove myself. All these guys were booking with a young guy that was new in the industry and all that. And
Yeah, it sounds like you did just that,
Mark,
man.
Yeah. So.
Well, go ahead and tell all our listeners where they can find you, if they want to book a hunt with you, where they can find you, your social media, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up from there.
Yeah, so mainly I update a lot of Instagram, so it's listed under Dom Jackson, Alberta Darkhorn. Also Facebook, same name, and the website revamping here. It'll be ready in the next week or so, depending on how much work I put in on the computer. But yeah, Alberta Darkhorn will be the website name and the URL, so that's where you could find me.
All right, man. Well, like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I know that anybody that books a hunt with you is going to have an absolute blast just by talking to you for the short time that we've had, and all the after hours stuff would be the fun time, I think, and the stories that you have to tell. I appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us, telling us a few. Like I said, we have a legend series, and I'd really like you to come on and break down the story of that double drop time buck in the near future and get you on a legend series. But we're gonna sign off here. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot, guys, for having me.
All right, I'm going to wrap up this episode here. Big shout out to Morel Targets, expanding their brand with the VIP family. So that's very cool there. Cody and I got a couple targets to try out and do a couple things for them. So we appreciate them.
This episode was pretty awesome, man. If I can ever get up to Alberta, I'm gonna be like, hey man, what's it cost? You know what I mean? Like this guy's got it going on. He knows how to put down world class. I mean, absolute giant deer. Those dark chocolate horns. A mount like that would be incredible.
Yeah.
Their hunting style is a little crazy. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure and keep hitting that play button. We appreciate you. Try to leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy's out.